Marvin Velasco has had a difficult childhood. After fleeing violence in his home country of Guatemala in 2014, the then 14-year-old made the dangerous trek to cross the U.S. border. The Department of Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement then placed him in a cramped apartment in Los Angeles, where his sponsor held him for weeks and deprived him of food.
I felt really bad. I felt really frustrated. I just kept asking myself, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
An AP investigation found 24 cases of abuse and exploitation within the child placement program at a time when the department was weakening its standards for vetting sponsors. Now, the number of young migrants from Central America is once again climbing. Among the cases AP uncovered, in Florida, a 14-year-old girl from Honduras forced to drink, dance, and entertain men in cantinas. In Alabama, a 17-year-old Guatemalan boy pressured to work in a restaurant for 12 hours a day to pay the debt he owed to smugglers to get him into the U.S. And in Ohio, lured to the U.S. with the promise of education, 6 unaccompanied minors were instead forced to work in egg farms under death threats.
Classic human trafficking type of conditions, really horrible, but it's broadened now. We're looking at whether there is a systemic failure.
After the egg farm incident in his home state, Senator Rob Portman directed a Senate Investigations Committee to look into how the Department of Health and Human Services is failing to protect migrant children. During the surge of immigration in 2014, overburdened social workers were not conducting extensive background checks when placing Central American children with some sponsors, and not following up with regular check-ins.
One thing we've heard is that they're overburdened. Well, in that case, they should seek additional funds and additional help.
Millie Atkinson is an attorney specializing in helping immigrant children in San Francisco.
When they leave their home countries, a lot of times they think if they just get here, everything will be okay. Reality sets in. They have a hard time adjusting sometimes. Sometimes the person they're placed with isn't their parent or is someone who continues to abuse them or mistreat them.
The department spokesperson said in an interview, "These tragic situations do happen when there are bad actors involved, and that makes it incredibly difficult for the government to ferret them out. I know we learn from lessons and keep trying to improve the system to ensure that children are placed in a safe place, and I'm confident the vast majority of the kids are." Marvin Velasco was finally able to escape his abusive home and found refuge in a nearby Guatemalan church where he now plays in the devotional band. A parishioner heard about the teen's story and decided to become his legal guardian.
I see nobody help, I do it.
It was a second chance for Ingrid Anspach, whose 15-year-old son was killed more than a decade ago in a gang-related drive-by shooting.
I want to try to help these kids, because almost the same like my son.
Marvin is now thriving in the band and at school and believes he has a bright future.
I have to put in a lot of my own effort as well, but thankfully I have so much more now.
Most of the children are not as lucky as Marvin, but the department says it is getting better at accommodating young migrants, opening new facilities to house minors, better screening for host families, and a call center where children and sponsors can report problems. Haven Daily, Associated Press, Los Angeles.